Press the bell icon on the YouTube app to never miss a video from News Laundry.
Welcome to News Laundry Chota Hafta. For the full episode, subscribe because it is behind the paywall and only subscribers get access to uncut, complete content. News Laundry Hafta is our weekly wrap of all that made the news, all that didn't, and all that should have and all that shouldn't have. We agree, we disagree, we critique, and occasionally we beat each other up. But it's all good fun. Subscribe.
This is a News Laundry podcast and you're listening to NL Hafta.
अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज़ लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते. My name is Abhinandan Sekhri and you're listening to News Laundry Hafta. Do subscribe to News Laundry, pay to keep news free, because when the public pays, the public is served, and when advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Let me introduce the panel to you today before I get into the menu of news and current affairs that we will try and discuss in the Hafta today and pack in as much as we can. We have with us our managing editor, Raman Kirpal. Hello, Raman sir. Our in-house award-winning journalist, I know I shouldn't be saying that anymore, okay, from next time I won't, Manisha Pande.
Hi.
And editor-in-chief, Madhu Trehan. Hi, Madhu.
Hi.
Also, most recently, you may have seen the hashtag #MeToo movement. We'll be discussing that because that has been all over the media. But other than that, lots happened in the country. There was a rape backlash in Gujarat, where, fearing mob attacks, migrants from UP, Madhya Pradesh and Bihar actually started leaving Gujarat because they feared that they'd be attacked because there was a rape of a young child there. This is similar to what happened in Bangalore with all these students and youngsters from Northeast leaving because of WhatsApp rumors. Then the Me Too campaign has hotted up. There have been several voices speaking up about harassment at the hands of former news professional and now Minister for State, Mr. M.J. Akbar. Alok Nath is at the center of much controversy and allegations from two separate women, one of an extremely brutal nature. Then in all this, in the US also, the Brett Kavanaugh hearing was over. The FBI report was submitted and he has been sworn in as a Supreme Court Justice for life. Meanwhile, Facebook is setting up a task force in India to combat fake news ahead of the 2019 Lok Sabha election. Let's see how far that goes. And three news-related points, which I find very disturbing. One is that the Bombay High Court issues a notice to the Information and Broadcasting Ministry to set up a pre-screening committee for web shows. That means even web content will be up for, censorship. Second, there's this journalist, he's a Saudi journalist, who went missing and is feared dead in Turkey. His name is Jamal Khashoggi. He was last seen walking into the Turkish embassy to get some paperwork to marry his fiancée, and they fear that he has been killed inside the embassy and his body has been dismembered and it shall be flown out. And thirdly, there have been a bunch of raids on the premises and residence of Quint and Quintilin founder Raghav Bahl. He was the principal owner of Network 18 and most recently he set up the Quint. Most recently he has invested in tech and news platforms like Quint Type and the News Minute. So I'd just like to start with this international news. It's regarding a journalist. The context being that basically there is this journalist who was considered very close to the royal family at one point, but then is seen as a dissenter. His name is Jamal Khashoggi, and he became a critic of the regime of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who's seen as this reformer. And he has a fiancée there. He was living in Turkey because he feared for his life, and to get some paperwork, he entered the Saudi embassy, and there's CCTV footage of his entering at 1:48 in the afternoon a few days ago. And since he hasn't been seen or heard from. And the Turkish officials say, investigating agencies, that the Saudi government is not cooperating and you cannot walk into an embassy because that is sovereign, it's like invading a country. Yeah. So of course it's led to this standoff and America is being very wishy-washy about it. But the stories that come out, like this story in the CNN, the way it's written, it's like pulp fiction. Like they have confirmed from Google Maps that 2 aircrafts did come in because the officials have said 2 aircrafts came from Saudi Arabia with 14 people on board, primarily with the job of killing this guy. And when this guy went into the embassy he was killed in 2 hours. That's what they say, of course. And they said, and then he was dismembered and his body was taken out in parts. With a saw they cut it up, and that's the end of him. I'm just, blown away that stuff like this can happen in 2018, so high profile, but yet Saudi Arabia
can get away with
gets
anything.
A seat of respectability in the League of Respectable Nations. What does that say about the importance of journalism in democracies? Manisha?
Nothing at all. But Precisely, and then it is a respectable nation. I mean, it never gets any censure for anything it does, and just imagine, like, and has it made a lot of splash in the global? I have read some news and all that, but has it been sort of?
No, I mean, just a few people have been talking about it. CNN carried a few reports, but no one is really asking, America to weigh in on this.
Yeah.
Because as long as, America has Saudi back, they could get away
Oil
with stuff.
power.
America's ethics on human rights is extremely convenient. They've supported dictatorships and then brought them down themselves. They've charged into, say, Chile and what they did to Allende. It's totally expedient. Their foreign policy and their morality is expedient. Jo suit karta hai, wo karte hain.
But Raman sir, what I think is that going by what's happening in Brazil, this Bolsonaro or whatever his name is, he's probably going to emerge victorious because in the first round he's got 46%. He said stuff like to another lawmaker that I would rape you but you don't deserve it. To the UN lady who'd come, he commented on her legs and on her figure.
Who
He
did
said,
that?
So his name is Bolsonaro and he won the first round. He's like this far right guy, Jair Bolsonaro. And now he's trying to say that I'm not as bad. He's trying to backtrack on some of his earlier utterances about women and journalism. And he was an admirer of Pinochet. So in fact, I recommended an article about him a few haftas ago. The world over, such strong men who have such contempt for journalism, for free speech, are winning in every country. I mean, I don't know what's happening in the world. There is a raid on at Raghav Bahl's residence, and I can, I'd venture on saying that it's because of his utterances, such vocal utterances about the Prime Minister, trashing his demonetization, trashing his GST implementation.
And he does it pretty well.
And he does it very well, and he has with the
he's
authority.
One of the few editor founder sort of people who are really directly saying that okay, this is foolish. Or one of his latest videos was about how foolish Modi's propaganda is, or something like that. So he's quite vocal.
In all the governments, not just the Modi, I know it for a fact. There is something called Department of Revenue Intelligence in Ministry of Finance. Okay, so they keep a dossier. Like I know it for a fact that Congress also used to do it. They had a dossier on Ramdev. I know it, and I was trying very hard to get that dossier those days, and I knew it. I mean, there were many allegations against him. So what all these governments do, they strike at the right time. Whenever somebody makes noise, someone to teach a lesson. So Congress was somewhat, I won't say liberal, but they will look at the situation. They will not go.
They won't brazen it out.
They won't be that vocal, But in case of Modi, I mean, I think the same thing is happening. The government has the dossier on everybody, and in this particular case also, I think.
Well, when I went to when I went to invite a minister to the media rumble, I was sitting in his office, and one of his officials brought in 2 3-inch folders thick. One was on Abhinandan Sekhri and one was on me.
Are you serious?
And I told you about it. And I came back and he sat there and he flipped pages looking at all my kartutas. And
I think individuals also.
Yes,
I mean, I
yes.
thought
IB.
organizations,
No,
but
no,
they make
no.
files on individuals.
Intelligence Bureau, if you
this
are...
is not Intelligence Bureau. This is from their these things that they've set up. The media and
Social media
analytics
monitoring.
and the print media monitoring and the television media monitoring.
So they are monitoring
and
your
they
social
categorize journalists on every piece that you do as positive, negative or neutral.
No, this is again, I mean, this is INB intelligence, which is nothing in front of IB and
they use financial
and revenue
thing.
intelligence. Because IB, I know it for a fact. If you have been writing, the stories disturbing the government, I mean, any story which disturbs, controversial. So IB makes a dossier on individuals, each individual journalist. Yes.
But
And then that dossier is different. That dossier is going to have your family history. Okay, who is doing what kind of the financial activities happening in the family.
But in all fairness, it's not just on media professionals. I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I have enough people who have worked at the government tell me that the Prime Minister maintains it on his own ministers. Because in politics, you don't know when you have to squeeze who's nuts. I mean, you may have to, squeeze your own deputy's nuts one day and you have the shit on it. So, I mean, the guy at top maintains it on even his own allies. So it's...
You remember the time when a minister was boarding a flight in jeans and he got a message from him saying, put on a kurta pajama?
I don't remember this.
No, that is for a fact. I mean,
news.
the fact is, the IB used to report Ministry of Home Ministry, always. But now it reports to DOPT, the Department of Personal Training, and that department comes under the PMO.
So in Ahmedabad, there was this 14-month-old girl who was allegedly raped, and the person who raped her was allegedly a migrant. So following that, there was this panic that was created, and some of the migrants said, who were interviewed, that their landlords asked them to leave. Some left because they feared that mobs would bash them up. And some Congress leaders are also seen egging crowds on to use this as a... So my question to the panel is, what can the media do about this? Because if you report it, you're in trouble. If you don't report it, you're in trouble. For example, if as a media you say that this is happening and crowds are leaving, that adds fuel to the fire in the sense that politicians will use that and say, hum kyun nahi, chalo Gujarati pride nikalo in sabko. Manjula's done a very nice cartoon with the unity, that statue, what's it called? The
Sardar Patel thing.
Statue of Unity, and migrants running in front of it with Gujarati mobs chasing them. So if you cover it, Madhu, you may add to. If you don't cover it, then you are ignoring a very...
That's a huge dilemma that, journalists face every day. We discussed it in the Media Rumble, and I asked Arun Puri that. When Raghu Rai came out with those photographs of the exodus from Punjab when the Khalistani movement was really powerful. And there was images like the partition, people in trucks and bullock carts and tempos, all with their belongings. And he didn't run that story because he felt that it would create more of a panic. Now, a hardcore journalist would say, our job is not to gauge the mood or be political on how to control the crowd or whatever. We have the story, we put it out. So that debate will never stop. I think that is a personal call. I would not run it. I would not run it, no, because I think we do have a responsibility. I believe in that I think if your story, the end goal should be, a journalist's goal should be to expose something where you would expect good action to come out of it. If you're going to expose a story which will create a negative reaction or a massacre or whatever, I think there's no harm in waiting on that story.
No, but this story is taking a different turn. It began with the rape, but then it became a question of Gujarat pride. I mean, in the name of Gujarat pride, you are just throwing these people out.
No, see, but
out of their livelihood. This is not
how this that we spoke. I don't remember. I think maybe we spoke about it last. Which happened behind my house. There is a Bangladeshi.
Yeah, you told me about.
Now the stories come out that the 3 men who are arrested are not Bangladeshi migrants. They are Delhi residents and with Hindu names. So the story that was, but the fact of the matter is that there is fact number 1, there is a Bangladeshi migrant community settled over there. 2, there is drug dhanda over there. 3, there is a mafia there who doesn't allow anything to happen without their okay. So the 2 stories have gotten mixed.
No, but Madhu, in this case, it's not just of the migrants fleeing. Manisha, please come in here. It is also of politicians using this to make inflammatory speeches.
Yes.
And as responsible news media, I guess one has to show, look, this guy is making such a speech, and therefore, the public has a right for him to, the media has a responsibility to expose him.
I think controlling information is silly today, because if we don't run it as journalists, it'll be on WhatsApp, Facebook, everywhere. So rather that newspapers cover it and cover it responsibility and give it context, and also it can sometimes work as a censor on politicians also, that we're being watched by newspapers. What we're saying is going to come out, so let's be responsible.
Taking off from the hashtag #MeToo firestorm that has singed everybody in their path, and as Manisha Pande said, Sirf Trivedi bachega. This after the allegation against Varun Grover, who's the writer of Sacred Games, which he has come clear on, and at least to me it seems like a extremely non-credible allegation. And I don't belong to that school of thought that say believe anything and everyone that comes, especially anonymous allegations. However, the one thing that this movement has done, and I've read certain pieces around about that, and even I am amazed at the widespread nature of institutionalized abuse. And I don't mean institutionalized in an institution, but in our society.
Yeah.
The kind of shit that has been going on for so long, it blows your mind. Like when the Alok Vinita Nanda thing came out, and that other director of Queen,
Vikas Bahl.
Now the thing is, if this movement is giving voices to such, women victims, I think hell, more power. Phenomenal. Because nothing could, you could imagine that, stuff like this would be happening right under our noses. But on the other hand, I am just a little concerned that there is this school of thought, and I'm not saying it's the largest school of thought, because I've spoken to many women women who run feminist organizations, international ones, who say we don't want to weigh in on this because we don't agree with that sliver which seems to be the loudest. Who say that we are going to burn everything in the path. Like, we don't care whether it is an anonymous allegation. We don't care who's on that side of the allegation. Once it's out there, we're going to put it out. That, I think, is problematic. Anyway, ladies, I'll leave the floor to you. Tell me what you think of the good, the bad, and the, dodgy areas of this movement.
There's a lot to say on this. The thing is that we have to remember that we are resonating what happened in America. So there is a morphic resonance in India from that. But the difference here is that when the New York Times brought out the investigation, they investigated for 1 year. Every allegation was verified by witnesses, by people who were there or who that person had spoken to and reported that this has happened to me. When everything was verified, and they held the story back for a year, which means that anyone else might have broken the story. They live with that fear. They waited for a year for it to come out. With Ronan Farrow, he researched it for 10 months, waiting for corroborations and witnesses before he put it out. We are in a situation where an anonymous tweet without research, without investigation, people have been asked to leave their jobs. So I think I do have a problem with that. I think there has to be an investigation before any action is taken against the man. Secondly, I think I worry about the fact of all the women who succumbed to these overtures, who are obviously quiet because they
might be shamed and be blamed.
They possibly living with the shame themselves, which is torture, that they gave in. And that is really problematic. It's really sad that there were young women who thought they had to do it. And obviously, if you look at all
Are you aware of any such names having been made public without their consent?
No. But I think...
Yes, I am.
There have been names.
In the private group, yes, they have made.
So they made names public who succumbed without consent of those ladies.
Without consent of those ladies.
That's not fair. The other thing is that I think it's people saying that abhi kyun bata rahe ho? 20 saal pehle kyun nahi bataya? That is a redundant argument.
That I disagree with.
It's completely redundant because look at Tanushree. She objected. She has footage. There's footage out there of her car being smashed, windshield being broken. She made a police report, and there was an India Today reporter there who's corroborated everything. So there's evidence. And so she did everything that she's doing today 20 years ago.
Also, you
and
feel
no action was taken.
You feel empowered in a certain environment,
yes.
I mean, so many of the cases.
For people to say, why didn't you do it 20 years ago? Well, Dalits didn't do a lot of things that they're doing now. They didn't object to a lot of atrocities because there was fear that nothing will happen and they will be marginalized even further and action would be taken against them. And now there is an empowerment in all the oppressed areas of our society. So to say that, why didn't you do that, is not acceptable.
Right.
Thirdly, I think that the government stand on it. The spin that they're giving is really problematic.
Does the government have a stand on this?
Yes.
What
because
is it?
I wasn't
Meenakshi Lekhi was asked a question.
She was really funny.
At a print event. And basically, this is the spin the government is giving. See, we told you how dirty the media is.
Is that what she's saying?
Yes. That it's your media. You people are doing this. And this is your responsibility. So that's this number one spin. Second spin they're giving on MJ Akbar is all this happened before he joined BJP. So it is not our responsibility. It's the media's responsibility. And third, it is the free pro-women atmosphere created by the Modi government that has encouraged women to come out.
That's because of Modi ji.
Absolutely.
So
Nice.
this is, and from the reaction that I'm seeing, even by the predators who are carrying on and tweeting about other issues, regardless of being accused, I think the policy seems to be like, it'll blow over, we just have to ride it. And I think that is a problem.
No.
Manisha ji, sorry sir.
So I think there are two things happening here. One is women talking about sexual harassment at the workplace, and they have taken to Twitter because there have been, like in Sandhya Menon's case where she went 2 times of India, she was told it's okay. So many cases where editors said it's okay.
They hushed it up basically.
Yeah, and they realized that ICC, Internal Complaints Committee, is just not going to help them. So you just take to Twitter and you make these allegations, and that has got institutions to wake up. And I think every organization today is scared about their ICC, whether they have one or not. I think no one even gave a shit.
Yeah,
so that is happening, which is sexual harassment at the workplace, and at the workplace being the operative word. The second aspect
Which includes hotel rooms and cars.
Yeah. I mean, which at the workplace,
Not a
by
physical
which I
space,
mean,
but as a
your
concept.
employee, So, and in fact, it's very interesting that, and I was speaking to a lawyer about that, sexual harassment at the workplace can also mean like something like a Mahesh Murthy, where those women may not be employed by him, but he jeopardized their chances of getting funding or moving ahead in their careers because he's a venture capitalist and women were meeting him for, as startups to gain funds. The second aspect to this is a lot of women coming out and saying these men are creeps. And this also, it's interesting because it's also kind of like a backlash against, quote unquote woke men. That ये बनते तो इतने feminist हैं पर देखो असली life में कितने cheap हैं या कितने घटिया लोग हैं. Now this is perhaps an important conversation to have. Maybe we need to discuss dating cultures. Maybe we need to discuss why do men behave the way they do behave on dates. Why do they think they can get away with touching you when you've said no? Or why don't they pick up verbal cues? Why don't they pick up physical cues? Or even relationship issues. Why are men abusive in relationships? But you cannot club this with sexual harassment, and that is
the problem.
सुन लिया अफ्रीका मुफत खोरों. Not to brag or anything, but News Laundry Hafta features in the top 50 in the world on SoundCloud in the news and politics category for podcasts. So do subscribe and see what you're missing, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Subscribe, help keep news independent and free.
All News Laundry podcasts are available on iTunes and Stitcher and any other podcast platform.